Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jessie, and I am one of the educators here at Bywater Solutions. And today's session, we are going to cover the circulation and patrons features of the new 1705 release. We have with us Kelly, who is another one of our educators. Hi, Kelly.
Good morning, Jessie.
Kelly will be monitoring the questions and answers section. So at any time, if you have a question during the webinar, please use the Q&A box. That way other participants will be able to see the questions that you are asking and then the response Kelly is giving. If it's something that we can talk about while we're going right through the webinar, we will absolutely integrate that in. We'll also have time at the end for you to ask any questions about the upgrades as well. So with that, let's get started. So we have come to the end of our 1705 upgrade webinars. This is the last one today. So I'm super excited that we have a nice group of participants today as we get through our last session. Over the past 3 weeks, we've had a 1-hour webinar, and then we focused on some specific module sessions. Now we have recorded all of those and made those available online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste a link right here in the chat box, and that's going to come out to all of the attendees, and that is the 1705 upgrade notes. This is going to include links that take you out to the Koha community manual, as well as the Koha community release notes. We also have some blog posts and videos that we've done on some of the larger enhancements. So if you have questions about some of the changes that you'll see, we have specific blog posts and videos available here. And then you'll also see those recorded webinar sessions. So everything from our 1-hour sessions all the way down to our OPAC and public services, technical services, reports and administration, and so on. So those are available to watch at any time on demand. One thing we'll do this year is you'll also see we have the Q&A from our upgrade webinars. And the Q&A from our upgrade webinars will include any of the questions that people have asked during our sessions. And we'll also include those answers today as we're going through our webinar. Some of you may also find that you're having the same questions that others have had, so we'll integrate those as well. But this is just a nice way that you can kind of go back and see what other librarians and staff members are thinking about. Just as a follow-up on your upgrade notes, this will include all of the enhancements that we have gone through and entered into the site for you. And at the bottom, you'll also find your new system preference, as well as any developments from Bywater partners. So with that, let's talk a little bit about upgrades. Upgrades actually start tonight. Tonight's finally the day, November 2nd. Our upgrades will begin, and they will continue throughout the month. Okay? All upgrades will start after 8 p.m., whatever your local time is. We will populate your staff client about a week prior with an upgrade note. You'll notice it'll be right on the staff client. So this is just our train site. So you'll notice over on the left-hand side in your news column, you'll see a red box that circles one of your news items, and it will tell you exactly when your upgrade will take place. One gentle reminder that we always like to pass out, and I will say I fell victim to this yesterday, always remember to clear your browser's cache. Just a gentle reminder, the upgrades will happen overnight. When you come in the next morning, just as a refresh, just go ahead and clear out your browser's cache just to make sure that everything's ready to go. If you have any questions or you notice that anything is not behaving as expected, always know you can submit a ticket or call us at any time. So with that, one final mention about our webinars. After the majority of our partners have been upgraded. At the end of November, we will have a town hall session, and that town hall session will be open to anyone to jump on, and it will be time for you to ask questions, and your educators will be on there to provide feedback for any changes that you have noticed. We'll hold a second one again in December, give you some time to go through the system and get familiar with any of the upgrades and enhancements that you'll see. We'll have a second one then in December. Those 2 dates are to be determined. Now, we are having a third town hall, and that will be on December 7th. And that will have a focus of Elasticsearch. A lot of us are really, really excited about Elasticsearch and integration. And Nick Clemens, who is our one of our developers here at Bywater Solutions, he will be doing a presentation on Elasticsearch and how you can actually get a sneak peek and take a look at it in some of the sandboxes that are available for our users to go in and actually see what Elasticsearch will look like. Those emails will go out on the partners listserv, so you can sign up at any time for those town halls. With that, let's move right into our enhancements for patrons and circulation. So I'm going to first start with some of our patron enhancements. So the first one we're going to take a look at comes through our patrons module. Just a quick show of hands, or you can use the yes chat box. How many of you use the system preference for auto mem number, which will automatically assign a card number to your patron's account in the patron field when you're creating a new member? Not many. Well, if down the road you ever decide to use the system preference, it's called auto mem num, and this will assign a card number to your patron's account when you're setting them up. Probably in most scenarios, you may have a box of cards that are sitting next to or underneath the circulation desk that you can grab out and scan, or if you're in an academic library, perhaps you're using the student ID. What this system preference will do is automatically assign one of those numbers. So now let's take a look at what this enhancement does. When we're creating a new patron, in prior releases, when you would come in and create a patron's account, so we'll just come in here and set up a patron. The auto mem number feature would automatically fill in the card number over here on the right-hand side. For larger systems where you may have 2 or 3 circulation representatives at the same time working at the desks, or multiple locations, this could you could run into an issue where if you opened it at the same time, you would automatically get assigned that next number, and maybe 2 or 3 of you would have that same number. So when you would go to save your patron's account, you would get a notice letting you know that that number is already in use. Well, what this does, this enhancement, will move the card number to auto-populate after you hit the save button. So that way, maybe one individual fills out the account, hits save, they will get the next number, and then as soon as the other circulation staff member saves, they will get the next number in the for that patron. So this is just a nice enhancement. If you do have a larger system and you have multiple people working the circulation desk at once, this will ensure that they don't step on each other's toes when they're setting this up. Okay, so let's talk about another enhancement now for our users. We have actually 2 that tie into the automatic renewal feature in Koha. And again, just a quick show of hands. Does anyone use the automatic renewal feature in Koha? All right, Leslie, excellent. So this is a system preference and ties into your circles that allows you to set when an item automatically auto renews. So there's a new limit that's been added into your circulation rules, and I'm going to slide all the way over here. We have a new one that we have a new circ rule that limits the auto renewals given for a specific date. So there is a no auto renewal after, and then you have a hard limit. So this allows you to actually enter in a date into the circ and fine rules. So the idea behind it essentially is to stop renewals at a given date. That way the library will have time to send overdues and get books back before, let's say in the case of an academics, the students go on a holiday or it's the end of the semester. So you have a nice option there. For those of you who aren't using automatic renewal, the automatic renewal feature can be set in your circ rules to automatically renew a particular patron category and item type. Once you turn on your circulation rule, there is a cron job that Bywater Solutions staff can turn on to start that automatic renewal process. Now, there's also another great enhancement that ties into automatic renewals. And I will say this one is a long time in coming. Quite a few people have asked for this. There's now a notice that will notify the user about an auto renewal. So excellent. A lot of people would say before, the auto renewal feature is fantastic, but how do our patrons know that they are actually getting a renewal? So now in your notices and slips library, there's going to be a new email that you can customize, of course, that will go out and notify your users of that renewal. And what we'll do is I'll show you exactly what that will look like in your user's account. So let's pull up one of our patrons here. And then I'm going to come over here to our Notices tab. And you'll see here we have one that says Auto Renewals. And it will tell the user the following item has correctly been renewed, and now its due date is XYZ. So this is just another great enhancement that ties into the automatic renewals that will send the user a notification letting them know that their item has been renewed. All right, let's talk about another enhancement. Now, this ties in for your patrons. So everyone has probably a gazillion passwords that they have to remember. How many times do you get to a site and you try to log in, enter that password, and you're like, oh, sugar, I just can't remember what it is. I can tell you it happened to me last night. I was trying to log in and check something. There is a new system preference. It is called failed login attempts. And what this does is this will allow you to set a number to block a patron's account if it reaches X amount of failed logins attempts. So in this case, we set it to 3. Now, I will say this. There's another system preference that ties into this, and that is the OPAC reset password. So what that will do is this will allow your users to reset their passwords. So if you do decide to use that failed login attempts, you will want to make sure that your OPAC reset password is set to allowed. Now, I will say one thing that they do need in order to recover their password is an email in their account. Because what this will do is this will send them an email, and that will generate a notice that lets them click on that link so they can reset their password. And we actually have a little option here so you can see what that looks like. So here you can see Koha password recovery. That would be the email that the patron would get, letting them know if they were locked out, let's say after 3 times, and they need to reset their password. The email will get sent to them. They will click on this token or this email, this URL that they will receive, and that will allow them to create a new password following that link. Now, one thing to remember, this will only last for 2 days. So if the user does it and then forgets, and 48 hours pass, they will have to do it, reset their password again once they click on that URL. Okay. Let's go back to our patrons, and now we're going to jump into our tools feature. Is there anyone out there that uses their patron card creator to create cards for their patrons? No, I don't see too many. Well, for those of you, if you ever think about it or would like to set it up, the Patron Card Creator is similar to the Label Creator. What it allows you to do is essentially create a layout and card template, which allows you to essentially customize a card for your patrons. Well, in this new enhancement, it ties into the images. So for example, if you want to upload your student image or an image for, let's say you have a community member option, what this will do is this allows you to upload those images. Well, in prior releases, if you tried to upload an image that shared a file name of one that was already in the database, it would automatically overlay it. Now, that is a great feature. However, let's say I'm uploading something. Let's get a common name. Let's go with Matthew. And let's say I had Matthew for an existing patron, and then maybe I got a new student and I'm uploading that particular image and it had the same file name. Well, what this enhancement will do is if I try to upload an image that already has an existing file name in the system, once I come over to upload that image, I will now get a little pop-up box that gives me a warning and lets me know that an image with the name Luna, or one that I've already created, already exists. So this is, again, just a nice little kind of reminder. So instead of it automatically overlaying, you will get a reminder that says you already have an image with a particular name in use. So this is just kind of a nice way to get that reminder. All right, I'm going to go back to our home screen, and now we're going to talk a little bit about some of our check-in features, which will roll us right into circulation. For those of you who may have attended some of our other sessions, there is a new enhancement in the OPAC. And this actually allows our users, so here we go, this is our OPAC Summary. This allows our users to actually enter a note into any items that they have checked out. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to show you the new system preference that ties into this. But for those of you who may not have seen the OPAC webinar, what this allows you to do is come in and actually write a note. So for example, maybe a student or a patron has checked something out and they notice that there is highlighting all over the inside of the book, and they want to alert the circulation staff that that was not them. This allows them to enter a note. Once they enter that note, the note will be visible at check-in. So when your staff members are checking in items, they will get a message that lets them know that there was a note attributed to that particular item. So here you can see I've already typed one in, and it says, for my baby danced postnatal cardio workout, I got sweat all over the cover. So let's go back over here now to the administration side, and I'm going to show you the system preference that ties in, and that is, again, allow checkout note. And what this allows is your patrons to submit a note. So you can either, of course, set that to allow or don't allow. So now let's see what that looks like when our staff members check it in. So I'm going to come back over here and let's check in one of our items. Oh, let's see. Oops, let me grab the whole thing here. I forgot the T. There we go. And you can see right at the top there, we have Patron Note. It gives us the date, the title, and then I can see that there is the message that I got sweat all over that cover. So that will show us that Patron Note right away. Now, we have had a few questions about Patron Notes, and I think I just want to talk about these. So a lot of people are wondering, where are the notes saved in the database? Once that item is checked in, it will move to the old issues table. So it is possible to get a report that shows you all the notices that have been put on items. One of our other partner libraries, NECLS, which is the Northeast Kansas Library System, George Williams, one of their librarians, is actually adding a report to the wiki. But any of you that may be interested, we have a report available here at Bywater, and we can set that up in the system for you. Other people have asked about, does that note really disappear from the record? And the note, just the thing to keep in mind, the note does get moved to the old issues table. Staff don't need to worry about deleting anything from the item once it's checked in. That note will automatically move to the old issues table. So if you ever need to go back and look at those notes, you can run a report and actually view that data. Okay, so let's roll into another one of our enhancements that we actually see on the check-in screen here. And that will show you now the number of checkouts that are existing on an individual's account. So I can see that I've just checked one in for Jessica Zarrow, and right beneath that I can see that she has 2 checkouts. So again, this right down here, just this tiny little checkouts 2, that shows right on the bottom now. And that will alert the staff members that that individual still has some checkouts. All right, now let's come back and we're going to take a look at some enhancements you'll see in the patron's account itself. The first one is for notices, and this is a nice enhancement. I think this is a long time in coming. In the last release in 1611, there was the option to add a resend button in for notices. So if a notice failed for any reason, perhaps the email address was wrong, or there was a .com instead of .org, whatever it may be, we'd have a failed message. So it looks similar to this. So it would tell us if it was failed. When that release came out, there was some jQuery that was in there that was hiding the button. So now in 1705, if you click on an item that has a failed status, you'll now see a resend button. So what you can do is just select that resend button, and it will attempt to resend that particular email out to your patron. So just a really nice way to, if you notice that something has failed and perhaps the email was just typed in wrong, now you can actually resend that, that notice out. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some customizations now. We have a few libraries that maybe they don't use any type of fines in the system, and maybe they want to customize what is viewable here on some of the tables where you can see fine or charge or price information. Now, in administration, you have some flexibility. In administration, all the way down at the bottom, we have additional parameters. There is an option to configure columns. There is a new enhancement that adds an option in to configure columns for account fines. So if we come down to our patrons tab and we scroll down to the bottom, we now have account fines. And so what this will do is there are some that we can hide by default, and that will allow us to hide those particular items from the table. So again, it's totally up to you. This is just a little customization that you can make to hide items in different tables. All right, now we've talked about some of our patron enhancements. Let's move into some circulation-focused enhancements. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into our circulation module. Now, the 1705 release has a lot of user experience updates, and what I mean by that is you'll notice a lot of easy ways to maneuver back and forth for your staff, making it easy for them to move in between modules. In prior releases, if I would click on, let's say, Set Library, this would take me in where all I would see is the Set Library box. We would never have our menu over here on the left-hand side. Well, there is a new system preference, and that is called Circ Sidebar, which allows you to turn that sidebar on. So now when your staff are in the circulation module, they can easily see that navigation or menu bar on the left-hand side. So you can come in here, it will be set to deactivate, you can set it to activate, and then that will populate that sidebar over here on the left-hand side. And again, that's just a really nice way to easily have your staff move back and forth. And you'll see this a lot in the 1705 release. You'll see it in cataloging, you'll see it in acquisitions for your purchase suggestions, you'll see it in your MARC frameworks, depending on where you go. So the 1705 release has a lot of nice user experience enhancements. That's what I like to refer to them as, making it easier for your staff to navigate across the system. So I saw just a quick question there from Wendy. Would the customizations be for all of your libraries? And Wendy, I'm assuming you're referring to hiding the columns?
Yeah, that's what I just asked her, Jessie. I believe that's probably what she is talking about, because you talked about the columns.
Okay, and I believe it would be for all libraries, because that would be an administration that would hide for all. Good question. Okay, so while we're in circulation, let's talk about one of our other enhancements, and that is under your circulation reports, and that's going to be on your overdues. So if we click on that, this takes us in where we can select a filter to look at our overdues report. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to grab our staff and apply that filter. And what that will do is that brings us up our overdues report. In this enhancement, this adds a sort option for the call number column. So now you'll notice over here, I can filter my call numbers in this report. So a small enhancement, but very nice. So now I can come in here and do the sorts right within my overdues report. Okay, now we talked a little about circulation in bulk. Let's talk about circulation where it ties into your patron accounts. So I'm going to come back up to my account here. And we'll talk just quickly about some of the things that you'll see when you're checking things in. Earlier, we talked about when an item was checked in, we could see the remaining checkouts the individual had. Now, this one ties into when an individual is checking an item out. For those of you that retain your circulation history, i.e. you keep the circulation history of your patrons, or if you have the option for your patrons to choose what their privacy is, and if a patron chooses forever, there is a new option that will show you any previous checkout that the individual has had. Now, if you do anonymize your patron history, you wouldn't see this because it wouldn't retain this information. But since in our case we maintain the circulation history, there is a new system preference called Check Previous Checkout, which will actually show us if a patron has previously checked out a title. And, you know, for our ferocious readers, they may fall in love with an author, read all of their titles, and then they can't remember if they've read something or not. This great enhancement will actually give you a little pop-up that says the patron has previously checked out this title. Then you can say to your patron, yes, you've already read this, and then give them the option if they'd like to read it again or pass on the checkout. Now, this does tie into a system preference that has a few options tied into it. So let's pull those up and talk about those. So again, the system preference is Check Prev Checkout. And you have some options here. So we have the first are do and don't. So right now I have mine set to do. That's where I get that little pop-up. If I would set it to don't, perhaps I anonymize my history, so I would not get that. Or I don't want that pop-up to come up. Then we have two below. Unless overridden, do not. Unless overridden, do. So this would be the case where you have a message that comes up that says, perhaps your no issue charge is $10 and the patron has $11. So you would get a pop-up that alerts you and tells you that the patron has X amount of dollars in fines, and then you would be able to see it if you select unless overridden, do. If you don't want to see it, then you can say unless overridden, do not. So you have two options there. Okay, so while we're in system preferences, I'm going to talk about another few preferences that tie in. We had quite a few questions over the years where people would ask about excluding holidays from your max pickup delay. So let's say we have our max pickup delay set to 7, right? So what that's going to do is that will tell us, mark something problematic if it's been waiting more than X amount of days. So we can say 5 days or 7 days. Well, what this new system preference does is this allows you to choose if closed days are taken into account in the reserve's max pickup delay. So this is really great. So now we can say either allow or don't allow closed days to be taken into account. So this will extend, let's say, those 7 days if it's perhaps Thanksgiving or another holiday where your library is closed. Now, again, you'll want to make sure that if you are using this feature, you also have your calendar filled out, and that's going to be in your tools section under additional tools on the right-hand side here in your calendar. So what it would do is it would skip any day that is marked as either closed or holidays or exceptions. Okay. All right, we just have one more here for our circ history before we move into some of our other enhancements. And I'm going to take us back one more time to our account. And this is the option to export your patrons' checkouts. So perhaps an individual has asked you, what are my current checkouts in the system? This allows you, if of course you're keeping your patron circulation history again, and not anonymizing, this allows you to export the checkouts. So what you'll notice is there is a new column all the way over here on the right-hand side, which allows me to either select all, or of course I can come in and individually select it. Then down at the bottom, you have an option to export checkouts using a specific format. So I can come over here and perhaps select CSV and then export that CSV that shows me their current checkout. So here you can kind of see that. Now, there is a new system preference again that ties into this. So let's come back over here to our system preferences, and we're going to come over here to export. And what this will do is this is going to be our export circ history. Now, this actually replaces another system preference, and now with this new system preference, export circ history, it used to be export with CSV profile. This allows you to set to either show or don't show. So if you have no need to export your current checkouts, then you would be able to set that to don't show. Well, all right. We have walked through our patrons and our circulation enhancements. Now I'm going to talk about some things that may tie in to your circulation and your patrons. The first thing we'll talk about is holds. There is a new option that has been added to one of our existing preferences. And just out of curiosity, is there anyone on the call that charges a fee for holds? Perhaps if somebody places a hold, maybe it's $1 fee. No? Okay. Well, for any of you who might, sometimes libraries will charge a fee for holds. What this hold fee mode does is it gives you the option to select essentially the circumstances. So currently, Koha charges all of your patrons a hold fee in all circumstances. Now, again, for those of you who aren't using it, those are all controlled in administration, and then your patron categories. So by patron categories, you can actually come in here and then associate a hold fee to that patron category. So let's say I'm just going to come in here to my alumni category. And if I wanted to charge them a hold fee, I can come in here and give them $1. And what that would do is that would assess a fine to them. Well, what this enhancement does is it allows patrons to make requests without automatically occurring a charge until they actually physically pick the item up and check it out. So what this does is this adds a third option in, and that's any time a hold is collected. The existing option was always and or anytime it is placed. So now we have an option that will allow us to just charge them when they come to pick it up. So it's just a nice extra enhancement, you know, that it gives your patron a little extra time. They won't see that charge on their account until they physically come in and actually pick that hold up. Now, for those, again, if there is anyone on here that is using this enhancement, again, will only affect new patrons created in the system. So if you're already using this feature, and you want to make some changes. For example, if you come over here and set that $1 up, just as we did, that will affect new patrons moving forward anytime they're created in the system. If you want to retroactively go back and update all of your, let's say in my case, alumni, so they also will be attributed that $1, the Bywater staff can do an update for you to the modification of those existing patrons in their category. Okay, one more hold real quick, and this was a paid development by one of our partners, Arcadia Public Library. And what this will do is, if I do a quick search in the system, just to search the catalog, this will actually show us the number of holds on each one of our titles. So here you can see there's a number 2 right next to our holds there on the screen, number 1 there next to our holds. So prior to this, you would just see holds, pipe, add to cart, pipe, if you're using the request article feature, and so on. But now we have a number in there. So again, just a real nice enhancement that adds in just a visual for your staff when they're searching on the staff side. All right, now that we've talked about holds, let's move right into notices. So for those of you who set up the notices for your patrons and tie into your circulation responsibilities, let's take a look at some of our new enhancements. The first big one that, again, I really love is the ability to translate notices. So there's a few things that tie in here. Number 1, for those of you who may have multiple languages for your students, or a larger population of, let's say, Spanish or French or Chinese speaking individuals, and you would like to translate your notices, you now have an option. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is your administration. And there is a new system preference that's called Translate Notices. Now, there's a few things that tie in here. The first, I can come in here and set this to allow or don't allow notices to be translated. What this will do is if I set it to allow, I'll now have an option in the notices and slips interface when we're going through and setting up our notices and slips. Okay, the next thing that you want to make sure you have set up is your language system preference. And your language system preference, let's scroll down to the bottom here, allows you to turn on a specific language pack. Now, for those of you who may not be using this feature, again, Bywater staff can enable a language pack on your staff client in OPAC. And what this does is this allows us to turn on the feature. So we can say English or French or Chinese, whatever you choose, and that allows us to turn it on. So if you would like to enable language packs on your staff client or OPAC, please submit a ticket and we can do that for you. So now once those system preferences are turned on, let's take a look at what it would look like for your staff. So let's come over here and we're going to open up our overdue bill. And I'm going to come over here to edit. What this new system preference does is it adds in 2 extra tabs. So right now I have my English pack installed and my Espanol Spanish pack installed. So if I come over to email, my default would be what was always existing in there. This will show me what was in that particular notice. But now I actually have an option for English and Spanish. So I can go in here and translate. Now I will say Koha does not do the translation for you. You will have to use either Google Translate, or if you have a staff member that can translate and write out the notice in a particular language, I would suggest doing that. One thing you do not need to do is change anything that's in the message body. So you'll notice over here, if I scroll up a little bit, where it says borrower's first name, borrower's surname, that does not need to be translated because all of that information will be translated. It comes directly from the database, and that does not get translated. What does get translated is the language, what they're reading in the system. So again, your default is going to be what was existing in the system, and then you have the either English or Spanish or what other packs are installed on the system. Now, you will notice one more thing if you turn this option on, and that's when you're either creating a patron or editing an existing patron. You'll notice down in Library Management, we now have a new option that says preferred language for notices, and this will show them the option with the drop down for either default, English, or Espanol. Now, we had a great question come from one of our last webinars, and they asked if you would be able to see that on the OPAC side. So your patron can actually log into their account, go to their OPAC Summary, and then edit or select their preferred, language for notices. And that was not an option. So we did submit an enhancement to the community to see if we can get it added over to our OPAC. So when your user is in their personal details, they would be able to come in here and then select their preferred language for notices. So one thing I really love about these webinars is we get such great questions and feedback, and that was one great one that was derived from our webinar. Okay, one more for notices. Do we have some multi-branch systems on the call today? Wendy, I think I saw, yes, okay, great. Maureen, great. So this enhancement talks a little bit about our notices and slips, and this ties into your overdue notices. So in Koha, you have the availability to set up your all libraries notices, and that goes out to all libraries. However, some libraries may have specific notices that go out. So in this case, you can see we have an all libraries bill, but we also have a main library overdue bill, because maybe we have different language that we want to send to our branch or campus, and we'd like to notify them separately. In previous releases of Koha, if a patron, I'll give a scenario here. Let's say I belong to the East Branch Library. That's my home library, and I checked out a book that its home library was at the West Branch, and then I also have a book checked out that's from my home library, which is the East Branch. If those books became overdue, I would receive 2 separate emails, one from the East Branch, one from the West Branch. Again, if they have specified emails for each one of those locations. And on those emails, I would get a little notice, and it would tell me both of the items that are overdue. So essentially, I'd get 2 emails, both telling me that both of those books are overdue, one coming from the East Branch, one coming from the West Branch. Well, what this enhancement does is when the overdues get sent, I will get one from the West Branch with only the title that is checked out from the West Branch. And then I will get a second email from the East Branch with only the title from the East Branch. It's a nice enhancement, and hopefully will lead to a little less confusion when the patron gets an email with both of them listed on the same email. So again, that's for multi-branch systems. That will just, again, clear up some of the confusion when they get those emails that use multiple overdue notices for each branch. Okay. So I have one more I'd like to show you, and then we'll open it for questions. And again, this is in our tools feature, and this feature is called Patron Clubs. This feature adds the ability to create clubs which patrons may enroll in. Now, right now, this is the first iteration of Patron Clubs. So what it does is it just tracks enrollment. It doesn't send any type of notices out. There's no type of way to see if they attended. It's strictly enrollment. And so what I always like to do when a big enhancement comes out like this is this is a good opportunity for you to think about all of the options that can be available for Patron Clubs. So right now, what this allows you to do is this allows us to come out, create a club template. This would be things like your summer reading program. So what I can do is I can create a template that allows me to allow allow users to enroll on the OPAC. I can set it up for a specific branch, and then I can come in and add any additional information that I want to collect from the patron. Once I have that template created, I can actually come and set up the club. And the reason you have a template is you can reuse that template over and over. So now I can come in here and essentially set up a club for, let's say, Summer Reading 2017. Then I can go back and see over the years how many individuals were enrolled. Now, patrons can enroll from the OPAC if it is turned on, and where they'll see that would be in the Your Summary tab. They would see an option for Patron Clubs where they can either enroll in a club or cancel current enrollment. The other option would be in the patron's account, a staff member can actually come in and they can enroll a patron in an account. And again, that will show up on the Checkouts tab. You'll have a new tab over here. You'll notice Clubs right here at the end, and that will give them the option to either cancel or enroll. Now there is a permission that ties into this. So you can give staff permission to enroll patrons in a club, and you'll notice that that new permission is right under Patron Clubs, where they can edit clubs, edit templates, or enroll. Now we have a video that we've created that goes into a lot more details about Patron Clubs. So if you're interested in setting it up and getting some feedback, to the community about what we can see in here, that would be fantastic. Remember, this is just a building block for Patron Clubs, and I know we'll see more functionality integrated over the next few releases. Well, okay, we have gotten through our Circulation and Patrons webinar. If we have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Could be a way to keep track of volunteers or friends of the library. Absolutely. I had another library mentioned in one of our webinars that they would use it for events, to track events, how many people were enrolled. I think, Wendy, it's going to be great because, if we could tie in, add in the availability to send out notices, you can send notices out. You can currently run reports, to see how many people are enrolled, but I think this has a real opportunity to be a valuable growth within Koha. Kate asked if this video will be posted. Yes, in the beginning we talked about our 1705 upgrade notes, and we've been posting all of our recorded webinar sessions here right on the front page, and I will put that into the box here so you have access to that link. And you can go back at any time and watch our videos. This one should be up by the end of the day. We just like to post them to YouTube, so we need a little time to render and then post, and then it'll be available. Okay, well, if you have any other questions, please feel free to let us know. Submit a ticket, call us on the phone, or jump on IRC and send us a chat. We hope you have enjoyed the last 3 weeks of our upgrade webinars, and we look forward to talking to you in a few weeks on our town hall. Have a great day, everyone. And thank you, Kelly, for monitoring the chat.
My pleasure. You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.